Okay, here we are. Final day, final step. Final day, final step. Takes a long time to make these things. You know, it happens quickly on film, but for me, spaced out over a long period of time. This has been hand sculpted, painted, allowed to dry fully, because you definitely don't want to apply a sealer over any kind of moisture or, you know, if the paint's still wet in any way. And it takes a while, you know, for it to really, really dry. So I've let this dry thoroughly. The sealer that we're using, the world of concrete sealers is very deep, and I feel like it's probably too much to even cover here, but what I just want to say is that we're using an acrylic water-based sealer. That's something that you can find readily. I mean, acrylic water-based is probably one of the most common concrete sealers, one of the easiest to find from the local hardware store. And if you can't find out, like, it should say right on it, water-based, like in big letters. And if it doesn't, and you can't figure it out, just look at the cleanup instructions. If it says cleans up with soap and water, it's got to be water-based. So let's get started here. The paints that we used were a watered-down acrylic paint. We're using a full-strength sealer. You don't water it down or anything like that. And I've got some here. You can roll it on, brush it on, spray it on. I prefer the spray because I find sometimes the brush leaves brush strokes in the finish. The spray is pretty user-friendly. I used that technique when I used to make much larger things, which would take a great deal of effort to brush down or use any other method. So the spray works really, really well, but you have to do light layers. It's kind of like the theme of this whole thing here. You just can't go at it with a heavy layer. It's going to be too thick. It's because we've got a texture here. The sealer will pool in the texture pockets, and those thicker layers won't cure properly, and then you'll be able to see them, and it'll be a visual defect. It won't be providing the protection that it's supposed to be offering. So again, it really comes down to multiple light layers. 2 to 3 light layers with an acrylic water-based sealer. Follow the instructions because there's a lot of different ones out there. There will be a time to recoat advised on the product, and sometimes it's like if you get it within the hour, you can do a second coat. But if it's not within that hour, then you have to wait 24 hours. That's kind of a common theme for an acrylic water-based sealer. I've found both work. I mean, the reality is that this paint finish is actually pretty color fast. Like, if I challenged you to clean it off of here, you'd probably have a lot of trouble. Those same texture pockets that we're talking about kind of protect from weathering and wear. And just in general, the concrete is thirsty. It's absorbed the paint. Like, the paint mixed with water absorbs right into the surface. So it's not even a surface coloration anymore. It's just a little bit deeper than that. But as a result, it's really color fast. And so even without a sealer at all, it's probably fine. It's probably never going to change color. But I find that the sealer, in addition to providing some longevity towards preventing water to be so readily absorbed into the concrete, in addition to that, I just like the sealer layer because it helps to create differentiation between the colored layers which we've added. From this distance, you probably can't see it. I'll try to take some better quality still images and include them in this video so you can kind of appreciate along with me how this looks. I think in person, like right now, this probably is, you know, cardboard background, I'm on plywood and paper. It doesn't look like much, but once I have this finished and I have it sitting out front of my house with a tree in it, something like that, it's going to look like something a lot more and a lot better than just some hand sculpted concrete that we threw together, a couple dollars worth of concrete and some, you know, dollar store paints, and here we are. But I think it's a pretty impressive product, and I'm really happy with it. I'm really excited to get this final sealer layer on here so that I can appreciate the different colors and the different layers that we put into this paint job here. I am going to go for 2 layers of sealer, and again, it's going to be something where you have to give it a small amount of time to dry in between layers. I could do more than 2 if I wanted, but I think 2 is going to provide me the protection that I'm going for. So let's get started. It's very important as you apply the sealer. It's going to be thinner and thicker in some areas, but you really want to avoid the situation where it's so heavily applied that it's starting to run. That's really not desirable, and you'll be able to see that in the finished product. much like the paint, when you spray this on, you have a very small window of time where you can kind of remove some, and it's not a big deal. If you wait too long, it doesn't really work in the same way. But let's get started here. This one should be pretty easy to work with. We'll give that just a few minutes to dry. When it's no longer tacky, no longer sticky, but before 1 hour's time, then I can apply my next layer. This is with the brand that I'm using. Please read the instructions on the concrete sealer that you're using with yours. Okay, here we are back for a second coat. I'm gonna say it's been 35 minutes. Right about that time. It's definitely good to go here. Again, really light layer, especially the second layer. I mean, I'm going as light as my sprayer will allow me here. Sprayers don't last a long time when you're dealing with concrete sealer because it's like a sticky, like picture what like a can of soda, the kind of residue that would leave. It's kind of like a sticky residue, same kind of deal. So sprayers don't last too long. Okay, this thing looks great. I'm really not very worried about the bottom at all. We'll just let that dry up there. Give it a couple of minutes until you see that purple hue kind of disappear, and I'll be back when this isn't so heavy in the air. We'll do a wrap up, and I think that's it. And here we have our finished product. I know I said earlier that like, oh, you automatically hate everything you do. I love this one. I had a lot of time to think about what I wanted it to look like, and this is pretty much exactly what I wanted. I mean, if anything, I was thinking maybe that band of the darker brown around the middle could have been a little more pronounced, a little bit darker. But you know what? At the same time, I really like how it looks, and I'm really happy with how this turned out. I'm really happy also that you watched the whole tutorial. You arrived at the end. If you like this, if this was helpful, please like this video, please subscribe to my channel. That makes a big difference to me and I really appreciate it. I hope that you had fun doing this. I know I did.